Welcome to the case of the week. What will cause a little girl to have funky digestion? Diarrhea, diarrhea, diarrhea. And I'm talking the kind of diarrhea that you eliminate the foods, you do probiotics. I mean, we did everything under the sun. This kid's poops would just not get better. What will cause the same kid to have really poor growth? Just a skinny kid that's not growing well, thin hair that doesn't grow well, constantly the teeth are falling apart, so cavities, dental work, just a malnourished appearing kid, even though they're eating relatively okay. What would cause that? What else, the same thing, would also cause a kid to be just crabby, irritable, angry, reactive? Diarrhea, poor growth, crabbiness, extreme crabbiness. What will cause all three of these things? And if you start looking around, there are kids that actually have this, and it's way more common than we realize. We just don't know how to look for it. It turns out that fungus, fungal overgrowth, Candida, aspergillus, all kinds of fungi that are growing, not fungi, but fungi. When fungus overgrows in the intestinal tract, it causes one horrific mess. And when you have a horrific mess in the intestinal tract, guess what happens to the immune system? The immune system goes bonkers. When the immune system goes bonkers, this thing is not happy. In an inflammatory response in kids, one sign that you know it's there is just irritability. The kids who have inflammation, they're just losing their minds. Their lids literally just poof, flip. They are quick to anger, and I'm talking extreme anger. Not like, oh, the kid is a little crabby. I'm talking like they just rage on you for no reason. You're like, what is going on, little human being? Digestion issues, growth issues, flip their lid, fungus. And I would venture to guess that it is happening way more often than we realize, probably somewhere around 1 to 5% of the population. Perhaps you, your kid's friend, have this. Now, I'm not saying that fungus is the cause of all evils, because there's so many conversations out there where people are like, Candida is causing everything for everyone. No, it's actually infrequent. Again, somewhere around 1 to 5%. It's not that common. But when it's there, it's a hot mess. It causes the kid or the person, bigger person, to be a hot mess. As in the case of Sally, what had thrown me off is initially we had done all of this stool testing and everything was normal. So I was like presuming like, hey, if we just spent $300 on a poop test, I'm pretty confident there's no fungus. Wrong. One of the things that I realized was that stool tests only check for the last part of the colon. That's where the poop is, right? And that is the constitution of the poop that you're sampling. As fancy of a test that you're using, you're getting just the last part of the colon, which means the rest of the intestines you just completely missed if there was an issue. And how we came to find out Sally's issue is as we were going through everything, and literally I had gone through Sally's chart, I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? So finally, we did this urine test called the urine organic acid test. And there's a few companies out there that can do that. Great Plains, Genova Diagnostics. And if you work with any holistic practitioners, they can order this. And you can also do a simple test, which is a urine oxalate level test. And if that is really high, chances are you have fungus. Because when fungi cause intestinal irritation, which they almost always do if they're overgrowing, that intestinal irritation causes a leaky gut, as we say. And that leaky gut causes oxalates to start recirculating. And I had shared before how oxalates themselves cause a hot mess. And they can irritate the brain. They can muck up energy production. They can throw off hormonal function. Oxalates cause a big mess. And fungi are one of the reasons why we can get oxalate changes. What was really cool is once we figured this out, and I had this kind of like holy Jesus moment, like, damn, how did I miss that? Once we found it, we did some nystatin, we did an herbal blend of antifungals, and the coolest thing happened. About 2.5 months later, the mom reaches out to me. She's like, Sally is not perfect, by no means. We're not done. We've got a lot more work to do. But she reached out to me. She's like, Sally's more calm. She's able to regulate herself. She's still fiery. Like there's other things we need to do to help Sally. But in comparison to before, and Sally losing her mind every day over nothing, she is now more calm. She is less prone to anger, still prone to anger, but less so. Able to manage herself better. And the coolest thing was that her poops were normal for the first time in a very, very long time. She was having normal poops. The mom is like, oh my God, her hair is starting to become thicker. The prior dental issues with the enamel, I took her to the dentist, and the dentist is already seeing changes in the enamel. And this is when I was just like, what? And these are the kinds of things that I don't believe until I see them with my own eyes, or my family see them, and then they're like, hey, this is what happened. I'm like, that is so cool. These kinds of things are possible. These kinds of things are possible if we are actually open to looking for them, if we're open to actually finding these things out. And in the case of Sally, this is the beginning of us allowing her to be in type of health that she deserves. Imagine if we missed this, and imagine if this fungus issue was an issue for the rest of her life, and she grew into this tiny, petite, always angry, never growing well, not able to focus, concentrate kid. And this is just who she thought she was. Because kids grow up to become that, and then they become the adults who believe that. And if you can imagine how awful that is for someone's image of self to be like, oh, I just don't grow, and God, I can't focus, and I'm angry all the time, and I'm just an angry person. No. In the case of Sally, she wasn't an angry person. She just had a tongue of fungus growing in her gut. And once we eliminated that, and we addressed that and started healing the gut, all of a sudden, the new version of Sally showed up. And I've seen this so many times. This isn't a random one-off. I mean, I've been doing this long enough to have had the opportunity to see enough things. And I've seen this happen over and over again. Again, this isn't the cure-all for everyone. I'm not saying that everyone has this issue. 1%. And of all the kids I work with, probably of the kids who have issues, I'd say the fungus is probably 5 to 10% of the time in those kids with those issues. But we have to start talking about these things. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to share this message. I want other people to be listening to this. I want everyone to be thinking about this. So if you get a case where a kid has got chronic diarrhea forever in their life, and they've got abdominal pain, and they've got a bunch of food issues, and they're just not growing, and hair is not growing, and they get weird rashes because gut inflammation causes rashes, severe eczema that doesn't go away in some cases, chronic itching because fungus triggers mast cells, and mast cells release a ton of histamine, and histamine causes all kinds of funky behavioral issues. Kids who are quick to anger, quick to get upset. Sometimes this causes learning and focus problems because of the oxalates. The oxalates are just like you're pouring basically hot pepper sludge into the brain. Imagine what that's like. Those are oxalates. That's what oxalates do to the brain. So if you look at a kid, you're like, oh, you got hot pepper sludge in your brain, kiddo. Maybe we should check him for fungus. And just the other day, I had a kid that came in for learning disabilities. Except some days the learning disabilities are there, and other days, for whatever reason, they're not. I'm like, and it turns out that family had mold in their home. And these are the pieces that we fail to put together. We just label kids with learning disabilities or ADHD or anxiety or poor growth and this and that. Those are all labels. They don't tell us anything about what's going on inside the kid. And that's where we want to go. Those are the conversations we want to have, because that is how we can make a real difference. I think medications are fine. I used nystatin in this kid. ADHD meds are fine. Anti-anxiety meds are fine. Use them. Help that to help people. But ask the question along with that. Why is this person falling apart? Why has this person been suffering for their entire life from this random concoction of weird signs and symptoms that seemingly make no sense until you connect them? You're like, oh, they all make sense. They're all part of this thing. And we just need to understand what that thing is to make a difference and help these people. So help me get this kind of information out. Let's start the conversations that will help all kids, all people live the healthiest and best life they can. Because you know what the cool thing about this is? Nystatin prescriptions are $5. Some of these herbs to treat fungus are like $40, $50 for an entire 3-month treatment. Changing the diet could be free. You just need to have the information and just be like, God, this is going to be a pain in the butt. I love these foods. Sorry to see you go, but hey, this is my health. This is my kids' health. And I'm sorry to say, we've all got to take responsibility for our health. And that's what's so cool, though. When you do that and you have the right information, the impossible becomes possible. And that's what I want us to be doing together. Help everyone know that the impossible, seemingly impossible things are possible. So share this message. Share these videos. Let's get this information out there because we really need it. And we can help a lot of kids. There are a lot of kids who are suffering. There are a lot of kids who just think they're dumb. That's the really sad part. There are a lot of kids, a lot of people who think they're dumb and they're not dumb. There's something keeping their intelligence or something keeping their capacity from shining through. And we're failing to see what that is. And that's the whole purpose of Holistic Minds, to get this kind of information out there so people can start putting 2 and 2 together and saying, hot pepper sludge in my kid's brain. Maybe we should check for fungus. And we're going to be sharing a lot more of this. There's going to be a lot more messages coming out. There's going to be a lot more videos and a lot more information that can empower you to help your kid, to help your family, and if nothing else, to help your community. Because if you look around, there's someone within your community who has one of these things that we're talking about, and we can help them. So let's work together to help them, to help you, and to help everyone have the most beautiful and healthy life possible. Thanks so much for watching. This is Dr. K. Be well.